Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. In this video, we are looking at the NFL Final Look picks for today. This video will be quick because the slate is starting in about 4 hours. But there was so much news that we were waiting on yesterday with Antonio Brown, with James Conner, with some of the weather in some of these spots that I just wanted to wait until we got some more clarity this morning, which we did. So let's get into it. Hit the like button before we get started. Subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out all of the links in the description. Prize Picks, the website, Twitter. That is all in the description. Starting off at the quarterback position, we have Josh Allen, $8,000. He's been coming on very strong as of late, fresh off of a 34-point game against the Patriots, where he just took out his revenge after losing a couple weeks ago to them, which the weather was so bad in that game. But he looks good against Atlanta. There's going to be some winds, some snow on the ground, but that should all be gone before the game really starts. Well, the wind might still be there, but the snow shouldn't really be falling in the middle of the game. You have Patrick Mahomes at 78, Tom Brady at 76, Kyler Murray at 73, and then Stafford at 71. Stafford hasn't looked the best. They've been really relying on the running game recently, so I think I can pass on Stafford at his price. I think Kyler Murray might get a bit overlooked. I think you can go right back to them. They have been in a bit of a hole, losing 3 straight games, and really they've fallen off in the NFC, but they still get a very good matchup against the Cowboys. Their defense has been playing better, but in terms of just being a high-scoring game, this one does have the highest total on the slate. I like Mahomes a bit at 78. Brady looks fine now that we know that Antonio Brown is playing as well, but I think Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, get myself a couple of running backs or running quarterbacks is the way to go today. 7K range, you're not really expecting Lamar Jackson to play. It looks like it's going to be Huntley once again. The 6K range, Jalen Hurts looks very good against Washington. The Eagles are now in prime position to take one of the wild card seeds in the NFC. They've been on a roll, winning against some pretty poor teams, but all divisional opponents, the Giants, the Washington football team, the Giants once again. Now they're facing Washington, who has really fallen off. We had some turmoil on the sidelines last week. They got absolutely beaten up by the Dallas Cowboys. They don't have Gibson today, so I expect the Eagles to go out there and win this game. Hurts has looked very good and looks like his ankle injury is completely behind him. I like Taysom Hill at 6,000, just give you some rushing upside also. It's not the best spot, but at least he's at home here. But if you need a savings at a quarterback position, you're going with Trey Lance. He's 48. He also gives you some rushing upside. And maybe now that he does have some experience starting, and then he got a bunch of weeks off to just kind of learn and reflect, I think he'll be a bit better than he was. He was fine still for fantasy perspective, 20 and 16 fantasy points. He does give you a lot of rushing upside and can throw for touchdown passer who can rush in for a touchdown, which would be very nice. Yeah, the matchup is really good against Houston. Their defense is terrible. It's very surprising that the Chargers lost last week to them, but crazy things happen. Wouldn't be surprised if Lance gets you close to 15 to 20 fantasy points, which would be pretty fine at $4,800. At running back, Eckler is back after missing last week. Justin Jackson had a huge game, even though he did have a costly fumble in the fourth. But Eckler should go back to getting a lot of the work. He's been great at home, averaging like 25 fantasy points at home. Then you have Jonathan Taylor. I think Taylor looks the best, followed by Eckler. And then you probably don't really want to go to Elliott just because he's still not getting 100% of the work, barely getting like 70% of the work. Still kind of splitting a lot of the time with Tony Pollard, whereas you have Joe Mixon, almost a 3-down back. Kamara's not really coming off. Eckler will probably come off at times for Justin Jackson, but Taylor also really playing like 75-80% of the snaps. Patterson has a tough matchup. He looks like a pass. We do have some nice value running backs here, starting with Ronald Jones at $6,300. He got you 22 touches in the first game without Leonard Fournette. That should continue. And it's a very good matchup against the Jets. So they should be looking to run the football, especially with some of their wide receivers banged up. Evans will play, but he's going to be very limited. So you don't want to play him in DFS. But I think Jones, at his price tag, looks very appealing. And I like David Montgomery as well at $6,500. They're getting Nick Foles starting once again. And David Montgomery does give you a lot of upside in terms of just getting targets. Actually looks like they're starting Dalton instead of Foles, although they probably should be starting Foles after his nice win against the comeback win against Seattle. But you're getting a running back that will get you a lot of action in the receiving game, still get you a lot of carries on the ground. The price tag is pretty fair, and the matchup is solid against the Giants. So another mid-range running back that looks appealing is David Montgomery. And then to close it out, you have like DeAndre Swift, who they said they're not going to be overly cautious with him, but he's coming off of missing 4 weeks in a row. He hasn't played since week 12, and he got hurt early in that week, Thanksgiving. So it's still somewhat of a concern just giving him full workload, which I don't expect. The plus side is that Seattle's defense is very terrible. So I think he's worth shots in tournaments, but I don't know if he's going to be like a guy that you want to jam in. A little bit cheaper, you have Darrell Williams, who will be starting the contest without Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He has had some very solid games, even working as a number 2 running back, and he's had some big games working as the primary running back. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets you close to 20 touches. The matchup against Cincy should be a high-scoring one, and Williams will also get you receptions out of the backfield. So you can do both a lot of the carries and get you like 5 to 6 targets. Wide receiver, looking at the top end, Cooper Kupp is pretty expensive at 95. I think he looks good, but I'm probably looking elsewhere. Stephon Diggs, save $1,600. You can go down to him. Tyreek Hill, coming off of a week that he didn't play much because apparently he was still gassed from missing all of practice with COVID that week. But the first guy I want to plug in here is going to be Antonio Brown. Now that we know he's playing, he's only $6,100, even though Evans said he's going to be back, but they said he's going to be limited with his hamstring injury, and that's always very concerning when a hamstring injury is very easy to re-injure that, especially with a guy like Evans who's had a history with hamstring issues. So I'm really going to focus on Antonio Brown, even though he's dealing with an ankle himself, but he did practice on Saturday, so I think he should be fine. Second guy is going to be Brandon Cooks, just because he's only $6,000. He gives you upside. And Davis Mills has actually looked like a competent quarterback the last couple of weeks. He missed last week for the protocols, and now that he's back, it wouldn't be surprising if he gets you 10 plus targets. And the price tag on him is very reasonable. And even though the 49ers defense has been very solid this year at times, they've still given up very big games to wide receivers over the past 4 to 5 weeks. You can go back and look, but I think Cooks will be a very safe option at $6,000, get you a lot of targets and upside for some big plays. And playing a quarterback like Trey Lance, you don't have to pair him with anybody just because he's so cheap. And you're really hoping that he gets probably like 8 to 10 fantasy points with his legs. The 5K range, Chris Kirk looks very good. You can go down to Russell Gage if you wanted to take a riskier approach. Other plays in the value range would be like Gabriel Davis, $5,000. You have Michael Gallup at only $4,800. He gives you upside, and this game should be very high scoring. And Cole Beasley is back, but don't know how much he's going to play. Still play a good amount, but they got a big game from McKenzie. They probably should want to work him in. I think Sanders is not going to play. He's questionable, so we'll see. If he's out, then that makes Beasley look a little bit better, makes Gabriel Davis look better. At tight ends, the top end, looking at Travis Kelce in a very good spot against Cincy. I like Kelce more than Andrews, and I like Kelce more than Kittle. The 6K range and the 5K range, Gronk coming off of a disappointing game, maybe he can bounce back. I like Dawson Knox a little bit at 55, especially if there's no Sanders. But I think Ertz might be one of the best and safest guys. He's gotten you 13, 11 targets the last couple of weeks without Hopkins, who's out for the rest of the year. And that should continue against Dallas. They should be looking to work the tight end. We're looking to work Chris Kirk. So I like Ertz and I like Schultz. I think both tight ends in this game are very safe in terms of getting you over 6 targets. Upside to get you in the end zone. And Schultz, even with them being fully healthy, has still been one of Dak's favorite targets. If you wanted to go all the way down here, the Chargers do not have their top 2 tight ends. So you're looking at Steven Anderson at min price getting some work. And last but not least, at defense, the value range here, in the 2K range, there's not too much that looks very appealing unless you're just looking to, hope that you get lucky with a defensive touchdown here. But my favorite defense is going to be favorite mid-range defense is the Bears at 32. The favorite expensive defense would be the Bills also at 35. The Bears look good in the mid-range, and the expensive defense would be the Patriots and the Bucks against two terrible offenses. If I had to pick any defense in the 2K range, maybe you can look to, if you're not playing Trey Lance, look to the Texans, because Lance could struggle still and maybe throw some interceptions, and they can take one to the house if that does happen. But now that Wentz is playing, I don't really feel good about the Raiders defense. Maybe you can look to the Giants or the Dolphins. The weather's going to be bad in Tennessee, so maybe the Dolphins defense. They've been playing better recently. So you can go with them or go with the Colts against a very inconsistent and very turnover-prone Las Vegas team. So that's it for the DraftKings side. Let's go over to FanDuel. All right, for FanDuel, looking at Kyler Murray as my favorite quarterback option. He's $600 cheaper than Josh Allen. He's cheaper than Mahomes, cheaper than Brady by a little bit. Same price tag as Herbert. But I think Murray and Hurts give you that rushing upside that looks very good for fantasy. So probably look to those guys or go all the way up to Josh Allen. Needed to go with the value one. Dak Prescott at 74 looks very good. And then I look to Trey Lance at the bottom. He's like $6,400. Running back, I like Darrell Williams the best based on his price tag at only $6,200. Now, Swift is too expensive, so look at potentially Zeke, look at David Montgomery in a game that they should look to run the football a lot against the Giants. You can look to Rashad Penny. And if it looks like Connors will play, but if he's not able to play, then look to Chase Edmonds at $6,500. And if you need to go all the way down, look to like Boston Scott at $6K, just because they don't have Miles Sanders, and Jordan Howard is a little banged up, but he's going to play. So I don't really know who's going to get the rushing touchdowns near the goal line. It looks like Howard has typically done that in his career, but Scott also, a little small back, can power through if he needs to. Wide receivers, I like Antonio Brown at 85, even though he's very expensive. I just know he's going to get a ton of targets unless he happens to get hurt or re-injured in that game against the Jets. Hill, still not been the best this year in terms of just being safe. The matchup is solid, but still could go to Darrell Williams. It could go to Travis Kelce, whereas it's basically going to go to Antonio Brown now that Evans is not going to play much. The other guy would be Stephon Diggs at 8K. A.J. Brown looks great at 75. You can go down to Keenan Allen at 73. And the 6K range, I have Brandon Cooks and Christian Kirk. Both guys I like. DK Metcalf, 66. He makes some sense there as well. But Chris Cooks, hopefully they both get 10 plus targets, which wouldn't be surprising in a game that, both games should be one that they're looking to pass the football. And for my tight end, I have Zach Ertz penciled in just because he's only $5,500. He's been very safe in terms of getting targets. He can get you into the end zone, and Kirk and Ertz should be looking at heavy amount of the work from Kyler Murray, so do a double stack with those guys against a Dallas defense that has been playing better, but shutting out the Washington football team isn't something that's crazy. The Washington football's offense is not very good, so it's not like they shut out the Chiefs or anything like that. But that's about it for the video. Thank you for watching. Best of luck tonight or today, and I will see you all next time.